Today we are talking about a subject that I find fascinating. We see, to begin with, a vast void before us, an abyss, not unlike a dream state. In this state, we find ourselves floating across an eternal sea. In this sea, our thoughts, our emotions, our dreams, our wishes, everything that makes us who we are dots, blurs, echoes of color, of thoughts, of dreams, of wishes, of wants and needs. And in this echo, we find ourselves looking out, looking up, into the nothingness. Above us is a new space. It's so far away, so far out of reach. But we feel our body moving again for the first time in many, many years. And as this feeling begins to wrap itself around us, we find that we see a version of ourselves quietly and one might even say peacefully caught like a mosquito in amber in betwixt glass and machine. As ice surrounds our body, we see that we are perfectly preserved. The doctors who put us here step into the room. They are wearing suits, not like the kind that people wear to the office, but suits that are meant to protect oneself from the cold. They step calmly towards our chamber. You can even hear the rubber of their boots on the cold floor. One of them reaches for the console on the bank on the side of this tube that we find ourselves in. With tapping obvious, with the noise of pressing buttons. A spark of energy fluctuates through our chambers. Water begins to form on the glass, ever so gently. There's a single pressing thought recovering from our mind. A thought in the midst of the frigid and the eternal and the unwavering. It's the thought of getting home. The thought of being free. from that thought begins to stretch an amiable and considerable power. At the very top, the absolute peak of the blackness, a speck appears. Not unlike on someone's glasses, but the speck begins emitting a ray, a hopeful, gentle, genial and considerate ray of sun, of light. It's tender and benign. It feels like it's calling to us. As the ice cracks, formations of webs splitting down its sides. The electricity runs through it until the water begins forming at our feet. And now we find ourselves floating upwards, softly, the pleasing sensation falling down, radiating lower and lower. As we reach ever upwards, feeling that basking sensation pulling us closer to the surface. The ice begins to melt away. In this frigidarium, we find that we are becoming alive again, surely. The blueness and the hue of a pale body feels its first drop of color returning to the fingertips. The sinking of glacial water, the raising of heat. The ruptures and cracks fulfill until finally all that's left is chunks. But us, like a crane, pulling us further and further up, ascending the mountain. Our ascension is at hand. Blood begins to move from those fingertips, stirring what has not moved in hundreds of years. The gap above us opens wider and wider, like clouds parting from some unnatural form. The light breaks through and shines down onto us. As we climb higher and higher, leaving this world behind us. Flakes of snowy and crisp, perfect pristine flakes fall off of our body. The color returns to our hands, slipping up our forearms. Our feet, now soaked in the warming waters beneath us. Floating in this water, glacial icebergs quickly warming up, chunks being torn from them by gravity. Life returns to our forearms, to our ankles, up our feet. Color returns to our wrists. The hairs on our bodies standing up. The sensation starts to kick in, and in that dark place, we feel that numbness leave us from our extremities. Little by little, inch by inch, that heat pours and slips up towards us. We see the sky from inside that dark place. It's vast and blue and beautiful. We want it. We crave it. The heat slips back into our elbows, into our knees. We deserve to be in the sun. We deserve to see the light again. We raise up again and again, reaching ever onward, feeling ourselves back in our bodies. The cold resigns, retreating up to our thighs, past our biceps, onto the shoulders, across the waist and the pelvis. Our hand slips past the threshold and the barrier. We feel breath going back into our lungs. The ice goes past our chest, up to our neck, up to our face, and finally, life is brought back into our features as blood rushes to our lips. We pass the barrier completely and open our eyes, feeling fresh, feeling renewed, feeling like our old self again. Welcome to the future, as we leave that dark place behind us and move forward to a brighter tomorrow.